Hey, Kevin here, and I thought I'd do a video concerning the current state of the union, if you will, and that is that we have this coronavirus in the United States right now. So I just thought I'd have a little conversation with you about that and how it ties into our lifestyle and our website, which is selfreliantlife.com. And I want to give you some educational things about how we operate and why this particular scenario is really not a big problem for us, because we practice self-reliant living on a daily basis and have for many years. And so I thought I'd give you some tips on how we do that. We sort of self-isolate as a general rule because we have the ability to stay home and work from home, and how we operate financially and so forth. So that gives us an advantage there. But I think it's important because, people are starting to have some concerns. Some people are panicking, and this is not about fear-mongering or panic buying or anything like that. It's really about being sensible and staying calm and educating yourself so that you can take on different events than when they occur. It could be a weather event, could be the current health event that we're dealing with, could be other types of things that come and go. And I think, generationally, we haven't had a real crisis per se in our country for decades. And so people, I think, have gotten sort of relaxed about the whole idea of just staying prepared and having a sensible amount of food and supplies on hand and so forth. And so I think I just wanted to address that for you, give you some tips on how Anise and I do this. So one of the things that is of concern for people during this is we want to stay away from people and stay away from each other a little bit so that we're not spreading this virus around. And so to be able to stock up your food supplies and being able to stay home and not go out any more than necessary is what's being recommended by the government and the CDC and various other agencies. And so I thought I would just talk about that a little bit. And so I want to come from a place of sort of starting from the very basics and beginnings. If you have basically a situation where you shop by the week for your food and you maybe live paycheck to paycheck, I want to kind of come from that perspective and then kind of build on that so that we kind of cover all the bases for everybody wherever you're at, economically. And so what I would suggest is, again, not to go out and panic buy or hoard a bunch of food or wipe the shelves out in the grocery store like we've seen maybe a little bit in the news lately, but to just buy a little bit extra every week if that's what you can afford to do. And if you can afford to do more, then that's great. But I want to talk about what in particular you should be stocking up on, and then just kind of building from a real basic storage of extra foods and then kind of going up from there. So we'll just talk about in the beginning. So the government recommends all of us have a 72-hour supply of food and water per person, just in case of any kind of incidents. And we do see weather-related issues in our country, in different parts of our country at different times of year. It's not unusual for people to go out and wipe out the shelves right before a storm, especially a winter type storm, or perhaps maybe when there's a hurricane coming on the eastern seaboard. Oftentimes, the tornadoes that we get in different parts of the country, the wildfires, or different things like that can happen. And of course, this is a health issue that we're concerned with at this point. But all these wind up causing a situation where we need to have some supplies so that we can try to stay put in a scenario for more than a week maybe. And so the 72-hour thing, or kind of a bug out bag type scenario, is a great way to start. And in that case, I would look at foods that are basically ready to eat. And so that way, if it doesn't matter whether you're at home or away, you've got these foods that you can open up and eat right out of the container that they're in. And those would be foods that are packaged up in a way that they don't need to be refrigerated. They don't necessarily need to be heated up in order to eat them, and that they're easy to open and use. And so that way you've got a regular easy supply. Now, when I say that, I would also suggest that you find foods that you like to eat or that your family likes to eat, not just, do what a lot of people talk about, which is, buying up rice and beans and flour and things like that. Those are component type things, but if you're not used to eating a lot of rice and beans, you may not be real happy with it. And as dry goods, they do take time to prepare. And you need to know how to prepare them correctly, and also to make them palatable so that you'll eat them and not have to just choke them down, which is not fun. Again, when we're in a scenario where it's a little more stressful because of whatever's going on that's causing us to use these storage foods or these backup foods, we're already kind of stressed out a little bit. So being able to eat something that you enjoy eating and that tastes good is going to make things a lot easier for you in that scenario. So I want to show you some foods that I would typically carry in a 72-hour scenario, and then we'll talk about a little more extended things. If you're going to be staying put, then that gives you some different choices as well. So one of the things that I do is I have a bug out bag, and Anissa does as well, and that way we have certain things that are going to make us comfortable whether we stay home or we have to leave home because of a event that's making us have to evacuate an area. And so at that point, things that are extremely convenient and ready to use are going to be the best choices. And so some of the things that we have, and I wanted to show you some of these. This is a product that is you can eat this right out of the pouch, and this is something that'll last for quite a while. It has a sell-by date and so forth. Now, warming this up is going to make it taste better for sure. And this is a lentil mixture, and it's got a good flavor to it. We've tried these out before we decided, hey, this is going to be a part of our bug out food, so that we knew whether we liked them or not. But this is something you can literally just tear the pouch open and eat it with a spoon, and it's got good calorie and macros. And so let me talk about macros for a second. Macros are fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And you want to look at things from a caloric standpoint. How many calories are you getting out of the deal? But you also want to look at what kind of calories you're getting, and so that you're getting good, healthy food to eat, and it's keeping you feeling good and have enough energy and so forth. And probably a little bit more calories than normal in these scenarios, because you may be doing a little bit more strenuous things, and things get a little more stressful under those circumstances. And so trying to get by on something that's not quite enough is just going to add to that, compound that problem rather than alleviate it. So the lentils is a really good choice for us. Another thing that we can carry that's really easy to use is these foil packets, and this one happens to be salmon, and this is a cooked, ready to eat thing, kind of like tuna fish, and it's got a good flavor to it. You can eat it right out of the pouch just like it is. And then of course another one would be tuna, and these are really nice because they're not needed to be refrigerated. They're pretty durable containers, and the profile's slim, so you can slide these into a backpack and carry them around without it being a big bulky thing. And so those are great ready to eat type choices. Another thing is to have some easy to eat snack type foods, and so this is another item that you can get. And this is a larger bag. When it's full, it's a pretty good sized bag. You can get smaller bags of these, and this is pistachio nuts, and if that's something you like, great. These are just something you can eat right out of the bag again. You might like peanuts instead, you might like walnuts or some other type of nut, but this is a good, easy to carry, highly calorically dense, and it's got good macros to it. It's got a lot of protein and fats, which are really important. And so I think those are good things to have on hand. You can also purchase, let's see if I've got one here. I don't have one sitting right here, but these little cooked rice pouches, and they come in different flavors, and those are again a kind of a ready to eat thing. Now you can certainly warm them up and make them more appealing, if you will, but I think they're pretty good right out of the bag. And again, that's just another pouch similar to these that you can slip into a backpack. And so you want to look at your calories. your total calories and see that you're getting, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 calories per person per day is going to be, depending on your size and whether you're a man or a woman, those will vary a little bit, so kind of adjust that accordingly. Of course, kids eat less than adults, and so you want to kind of think about that. But make it fun, fun stuff for the kids to eat so that they're not, stressing out about things. And so find things that people like to eat that'll also fill those good calorie and macro needs so that you're getting good nutrition even though you're in a, in a scenario like this. So we talked a little bit about that. So let's talk about some things that if you're going to stay put, makes it a little easier for you and kind of opens up another range of options that I think is important. And it may depend on whether or not you even have power where you're at. So one of the things you got to consider is foods that you can eat right out of the container that don't necessarily need to be cooked or warmed up. And then if you do still have the ability to cook, that gives you another range of possibilities. So let's look at that. Canned foods are typically cooked and ready to eat. And this is a can of salmon. Again, another container that's a little bit different. And you can open this up and eat it just like it is. But I would learn some recipes that you can use for salmon. We like to make salmon patties, which is a little bit more involved, and you're going to have some crackers and some spices and so forth, and then egg. And so that, you can make those into kind of a hamburger patty kind of thing. We enjoy those. Again, foods we'll eat anytime, but also foods that are good for storage and ready to eat, simple to process. This is good old Spam, and Spam has been around since, I don't know, the 40s or something. It originally started out as a wartime food ration because, again, this was easy to ship and store, and so a lot of the soldiers were eating this stuff. And in fact, it's funny because in Hawaii this is kind of a comfort food now, because during Pearl Harbor in the 40s, when we had the war going on, that's what got shipped over there, and so a lot of people still eat this today and think it's a great thing. It's probably the equivalent to macaroni and cheese for the rest of us, and it does taste good. I think I'm not sure exactly. There's pork and some other things in there, but you can crack that can open and eat it just like it is. If you warm it up, probably going to be better. But good old can of tuna ready to eat. This is something that I personally will eat right out of the can. It's fine just like it is, and if you want to turn it into tuna salad so you can make a sandwich out of it, that's great. But if not, just crack that open and eat it right out of the can. White chicken. This is this chicken breast that's cooked and ready to eat. Again, you can make a salad sandwich, or you can just eat it right out of the can. It's not a bad thing to eat. Here's refried beans, and again, you can eat that right out of the can. Warming it up's better, but this is a good, and these are high proteins. Some of these got good fats in them. This is a protein and carb kind of thing, and it's pretty filling. Gets you some good calories. If you wanted to mix that with something to make it a little more fun, this is a can of Rotel, which is a spicy, and when I say spicy I don't mean hot, but it's got a lot of flavor. A bunch of tomatoes, onions, and peppers in it, and you can stir that together with your beans and make a kind of a nice dip or spread, or just eat it by the spoonful. If you get into more dry goods and so forth, this is a can of spaghetti sauce. And what's nice about this is, let's say your power's out and you don't have refrigeration, rather than have a great big jar of something, have smaller containers of it, so it's a one-serve type thing, and you don't have to worry about leftovers and what are you going to do with them, and then wasting food because it spoils because it can't be refrigerated. So smaller containers. So think about the number of people you're going to be feeding. Could be one person, could be a family, and then purchase quantities according to need. So think about that. And then, these are all things that you can buy a little bit of every week and just keep setting them aside and building up your stockpile, if you will, of foods, so that you've got a way to eat. And again, these are eat them right out of the can if you want to, or use them in a scenario where you can do some cooking. That kind of opens up a different range. There's another one. This is a bagged foil pouch type container of clam chowder or salmon chowder, and you could eat this just like it is, or you can warm it up. And sometimes this could just be something where you stick it in a microwave if that's available, or a pot of water to warm it up, and then you can open it up and eat it right out of the package. So now again, you're down to the minimum. You're not dealing with a bunch of dishware that you have to deal with cleaning, maybe just a spoon or a fork, and that's something that's easy to clean off and have ready for the next meal, so you're not dealing with a lot of infrastructure, if you will, of having to have all that cookware and utensils. I like these. These are the little sort of a single serve mashed potato thing. You can just add water to this and butter if you like, if you've got it. And you know, pretty good calories, fills the kids up. A lot of kids like mashed potatoes, so that's a good comfort food. My grandsons are big on those and think they're the best thing since bread, I guess. So now we're talking about getting into some foods where you're going to have to do some preparing. This is a soup mix. It's a dry mix. You have to add water to it and heat it up. And again, this is a long shelf life. It's pretty much self-contained, where you're going to add some water to it and then warm it up, and you're ready to go. And one of the things you want to think about is just looking at the back, the nutrition facts on these containers. And so again, if you're just starting to stock up on things and you're just trying to get most bang for your buck, I want you to look at the calories per serving on the back of these containers and see how dense of a calorie pack you're going to get. And that can vary greatly. So for instance, there's very little calories in tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce. There's not a lot of calories here. Add it to pasta, now you're changing things up because you're going to get a lot more carb calories. Again, very little calories in this, but this is a good flavoring to help you make things more edible and taste good and so forth, versus even the protein. So if you're looking at the tunas and the chickens and things like this, these don't have a lot of calories. They have a lot of protein, but they're not real calorie dense. So calorie dense things are going to be things that are high in fat. And so if you think about things like peanut butter, you're going to get a tremendous amount of calories for the size of the container, and it's pretty reasonable cost to buy something like that. So if you like peanut butter, if the kids like peanut butter, get some peanut butter and put it away, so that a lot of people just like that as a snack or a comfort food. And so that's a great thing to have on hand. I mean, you can open the jar up and eat it right out of the jar. So you think about that. Same thing with nuts. A lot of calories, a lot of fats, a lot of protein. So good dense food that you don't have to have a whole lot of in order to get the calorie needs you need on a daily basis. And I'll show you a couple other ways. Now, we buy them in fairly large bags. This is a bag of walnuts that you can get from Costco. So let's take a look at the calories on this, because I think this is really important information. So if you look at the nutrition facts, and there should be on any kind of food you get, there should be a calorie and nutrition fact bar. It looks like this. This is a big example. You can see that. And it gives you the breakdown of all the ingredients and so forth. And so in this bag, this is just walnuts out of the shell. The calories per serving is important to know, and then the number of servings per container is important to know. So in this case, the calorie count per serving size, which is a quarter cup, is 200. And there's 45 servings in this bag. So if you take that number of 200 calories times the number of servings per container, which is 45, there's 9,000 calories in this bag. And these are really good healthy calories for you, because you got good fiber, you got some protein and fat in here, and some carbohydrates. This is a great food. And again, open the bag and eat it. Everybody likes nuts, more or less. I think, I don't know if you don't, then don't buy them, but this is a great highly nutritious food. Relatively inexpensive, I think, in comparison to other things, and highly portable, lasts for a long time. 9,000 calories, that's enough food for one person for 4 days if this is all you ate, and it's good for you. So it's important to look at your nutrition facts on any of these containers, so that if you're just starting out, again, you could be, living paycheck to paycheck in an apartment somewhere, and have limited space and funding. So, but if you go and start purchasing critical things like this that are going to give you the most bang for your buck, then you're getting ahead of the game a little bit until you start to get a good stock, and then you can start adding on maybe some, for lack of a better term, luxury type foods that would be more fun to have around, but not quite as big a bang for your buck. So start out with highly caloric, dense, nutritious foods and get a good supply of that, and then build from there and get into some of your other types of foods that you enjoy eating and want to keep around. I was going to show you, again, you can buy these individual servings like this. This is a little bitty bag of jerky, and so I like these, and I'll throw a few of these in my bag. Protein, carbohydrates, you're going to get, this is a 1 serving size, it's 90 calories. So again, when you're dealing with protein, you're not necessarily getting a lot of calories, but you're getting the protein that you want, so that's one of your macros. Put more of them in your bag. They're only, this is 1.25 ounces, so it's not a very big bag. So maybe you throw a few of those in, doesn't weigh nothing, and they're good for you. Here's a ready to eat brown rice that you can buy. You can buy these in single servings like this on the shelf at the grocery store. If you go to like a Costco, you can buy these by the cases, and so you might get 6 or 8 of these in a case. And this is something, again, you can open this up and eat it just like it is. It's a 1 serving, well, it's 2 servings in here, so 220 calories per serving, so 440 calories right there. Good carbs, good fiber, and fills you up. So that's a really nice product. I keep these in my bag. I keep these in my bag. I keep some of these tunas and the lentils. These are all things you can throw in a little backpack and to carry around. They're not going to take up a lot of space, and they're not real heavy. So this doesn't mean that these are exclusive to a bug out bag, but this is just what I've talked about as far as these really easy, convenient things that you can carry. You can keep these in the house. By all means, a lot of people could use these on a regular basis. And again, I would eat these. I would try these out. I wouldn't just buy this stuff and set it aside so that later on, when it does come time that you want to use them in an event, that you open them up and you're like, yuck, I don't like this stuff. Now what? Now you're just going to be choking it down. That's not going to be fun, and your kids may not like it and protest. So try these things out now and see what you think of them, and make sure that they're something you want to keep around and utilize and store in larger quantities. So something to think about there. What else do we have? Peanuts. There's another great food. This is again a large size bag. You can buy these in the jar. You can buy them, you know, in a container like this. Again, large container. But this is only about $6.50 for either one of these to purchase down at Costco, and so they're readily available. They're, again, don't need refrigeration. They're easy to eat. People like them. Got good nutrients. You get a lot of fat and protein in peanuts, and they're calorie dense and pretty good bang for your buck, and you get a lot of calories out of a container that big. And you can break these down into smaller servings, put them in a Ziploc bag or something, and throw them in your bug out bag, or just keep them here at the house and, you know, kind of portion them out for people or whatever. And they work out real good that way, and I like them. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is back in talking about some dry goods now, and this is a box of pasta. It's a 1 pound box of pasta, and this is going to require cooking because it's dry. And so again, if you're in a situation where you're staying home and you've got access to cooking facilities, this is going to be something that you're going to, you know, combine that with your pasta sauce and make yourself a nice meal. And you know, lots of carbs here. Very filling. Kids are going to be happy because, you know, it's pasta, and so I think that's this is relatively inexpensive to buy. And again, this is like a 1 meal for 4 kind of thing in this size of a container. And so you can buy larger quantities of this. You can buy multiple packages, case quantities, whatever. You can get to even, you know, large bags of this, and they store for a long time. Pretty easy to use. Everybody can, you know, boil water, can make pasta. Gives you some options, and obviously you can mix this with vegetables and meats and various sauces. I mean, you can just put butter on it if you want to, or olive oil. It's just, you know, got a lot of versatility to it, and it's a pretty filling food to have on hand.